can I get you to introduce yourself, please?
I am Harry Howorth. I am 102.
And you're from Southport?
I'm from Southport, born and bred.
And how long have you lived in Southport for?
102 years.
And now you have a very unusual claim to fame because you're one of only 6 remaining D-Day veterans, aren't you?
Those that were awarded the Legion d'Honour, yes. And I actually met one on Friday afternoon. And he also lives in Southport. So 2 in Southport out of 6 is very, very good. It must be the water.
Now, you are one of the, if not the only remaining one from the first rave that actually went on the beaches, wasn't it?
Yes.
Which beach was it?
I was with it was the
Sword Beach. Sword Beach.
Sword Beach.
And what battalion was it?
The KSLI, the Kings Shropshire Light Infantry, but it's disbanded now.
Now, what was it like actually being on that mission? Was it, I know it was going to be nerve-wracking and frightening for you.
No, it wasn't actually. What it was, we've been doing it for about 3 years. Must have jumped into every lock in Scotland, and it was just like another exercise. You didn't realise until you actually got there that it was for real. It just felt like an exercise.
What was it like being on the boats going over? Because was it very rough?
It was rough. As a matter of fact, later in the day, all landings had to stop.
So, what got you on the beach? Did you go on the...
What happened was, I was aboard a ship and it had 2 gangways, one at each side. And I noticed that on the front on our side, there was a man holding a rope, tied to the gangplank, and then I looked again and he'd been killed in some way, or he was lying down anyway, and the gangplank fell off into the water. The gangplank went onto the beach. The ship itself slewed round on the gangplank, so I was now outside the vessel, with a vessel between me and the beach, and what happened was the gangplank broke off. And an officer and his batman, Autry, had managed to get to the bottom and they only got the slacks wet.
What was it like being on the beaches?
Well, you had a job to do, and what you did is only think about what you had to do, and that you can't just carried it out. Actually, as I came into land on the ship, I looked over the starboard side and an identical ship to the one I was on was coming in alongside. A big hole came in the side of the ship. After a few seconds there was a big blast inside the ship and I realised that was a different day than all the exercises.
And actually physically on the beach, were you relieved to get on the beach, or was that even more terrifying?
I didn't get on the beach. The ramp broke off and I was in the water and a pair of hands came and pulled me out.
So what happened then?
We sheltered behind a burnt out half track, and then I suddenly said to him, well, I have to go. I saw a battalion of men running down the road towards Bayhall. I chased after them. An officer went slower that was running with the battalion, and they said to me, do you remember anything about the crossroads? And he was warning me I was going the wrong way. I went back to the place I should have been at. When I went in, the major, that's over the company I was with, said, "At last we've got a signaller." I said, "You've got a signaller, but you haven't got a wireless set," because I wasn't carrying the wireless set. A man named Lease, Corporal Lease, was carrying the wireless set, and he still hadn't got there.
Did you manage to get there?
Oh, he got there. A very strange thing happened though. The next morning, I ran a cable from the slip trench we were in on a hillock overlooking Cairn called the BC, and I went from there to take a cable to headquarters. So instead of using the set, we had a telephone. And when I got back, there was the wireless set which I'd left him with was all parcelled up and tidied up, all microphones and everything taken out of it, and he disappeared. And I've never known what happened to him from that day to this.
So, what else did you do? Did you do any other things?
Well, we were supposed to attack Cairn, but we got a message that there was a battery of guns that had to be silenced, and that's what we spent the day. We got to the guns with two engineers, and they put charges in the two guns that was hitting all our ships on the channel, and finally they went off, and our job was done for that. So then we made our way back to the outskirts of Cairn, and on that day I think that 4 or 5 of us could have captured Cairn, but a message went from our CO to headquarters and said, should we enter Cairn? And the reply came back, consolidate, remember your wife and family. And we stayed there then for weeks.
So, when you actually stayed there, and what did you do after that? Did you stay there and just?
Well, we stayed for quite a long while, and over a couple of weeks or so. And what happened was night and day we were being strafed and shelled, so we lost a lot of men just staying there in the slip trenches.
What was it like coming back to Liverpool after the war?
Oh, that was a long time after, because after the war in Europe finished, there was still a war going on in the Far East, and I was due to go to the Far East. I was sent home for acclimatisation from the Canal Zone of Egypt, and that time, on my way back to go to the Far East, they dropped the atom bomb and it was all over. But the trouble that broke out in Palestine, and I then went to Palestine, where we stayed for another 3 years in Palestine before I ever came back here. And of course by then England had calmed down. They'd forgotten that there was still a war, had been a war on.
Was that very disheartening?
Well, no, you just wanted to get home and go back to work.
How much had changed in Liverpool? Was it a place you didn't exist?
Liverpool hadn't, well, in Southport, it hadn't changed a lot. Over the years, of course, it has changed vastly. But I often look back, only for that man who saved my life, all my family, they wouldn't be here.
Now, moving on happier notes, it's your 102nd birthday this month. what have you been getting up to? Because we've seen you at the Armed Forces Day Parade, and I believe you've been at quite a few other events.
It was a very good parade this year, and I met another chap who was awarded the Legion d'Honour. So it was a very, very nice person to meet, and I enjoyed that. I really did.
And you also met the Lord Lieutenant, didn't you?
Oh yes, yes.
And who else did you meet?
Quite a few old friends of the of Sapper, which was very nice to see them again.
Now, with you today is a young lady who's sitting next to you, and I believe this is your girlfriend.
By all means, it has been for a long while.
Yeah. Do you want to introduce yourself?
My name's Maureen Hall.
How much of a mischief is he?
Hey, make your mind up, she's a nuisance. Tell the truth.
No, we've been together for 12 years now. We don't actually live together, we live next door to each other. But we go out a lot, we've been on holidays together, and we've enjoyed the last 12 years, haven't we, love?
Oh yes, very much so.
And what type of things do you like doing? Because I believe you like the theatre.
I used to like the theatre, but what happened was the lift broke down and I could no longer get in. So I've given up my membership. But now I've given it up, I believe the lift's been repaired.
So what type of theatre plays do you like?
It's an amateur theatre group in Southport, a
Dramatic club.
and I used to enjoy going, and I used to know quite a few of the local residents who were on stage.
So what was your favourite show of all time?
The comedies mostly.
Actually, I didn't like the fact that being amateurs, very often they had to have they tried to put on an accent, and with being not professional, it didn't work well. I didn't like that when they was trying to put an accent on, which was of course part of the stage show, but it didn't seem to work. But the rest I enjoyed.
So what was your favourite show though? What did you like the best? What show?
Most of the comedies.
Yeah, any particular one?
The one where they went to the Grand National. Ladies' Day.
Ladies' Day was very good, and they also did a rendering of.
You like Dick Barton's Special
No,
Agent?
the naked one where the men. What's that called?
Oh, I can't remember that one.
For Monty. Yes, I
Oh, that was-
enjoyed that. And
That was quite good.
actually, the barman in the little theatre, I was talking to him because he was in it. And he said the only thing he could do to get in the act was climb up the wall. And I said, because he couldn't, of course, he kept falling down. So I said to him, you must have had a few bumps around. He said, no, I always fell on my knees.
So have you ever done acting?
No, no. Well, I'm acting all my life, but no.
So in your 102 years, what do you think has been the biggest change that you've seen?
The fact that people now no longer are as friendly as they used to be. At one time, at night, when you came home from work, the women would be on the doorstep, sitting in the evening cool. Whereas today, you hardly know your neighbours. You didn't need to shut the door you'd nothing to take. So every door was open.
What about technology? Do you think that?
Oh, some have been for the good, but I'm afraid some of it hasn't done much good at all. And when artificial intelligence comes in, and it's already coming in, I have a big feeling the world will change.
So, have you gone on the internet?
No. My friend here has
About what?
internet.
No, not really.
You have it on your phone.
You don't.
I can just manage my mobile phone and that's about it.
So, what do you think about TV and the changes in TV and radio?
When it first came out, a friend said to me, it's a wonderful thing, but in a few years' time, they'll have made that many films, you'll have seen it all in some form or another before. And I'm afraid that's how it is now. We've seen it all.
So, out of all the films and everything, what do you think has been the best one that you've ever seen?
I should think the picture of the royalty that's gone on just a few years ago before the Queen died. And I seem that I know the royalty because I've met them all.
Yeah, tell them about Balmoral.
Actually, during the war years, in Balmoral, every about third night, I used to go up the back staircase into the tower of Balmoral with a wireless set. Because at that time, the KSLI was guarding them if Germans had come here to Britain. We was going to guard them long enough for them to get out to Canada. And over the years, I've met them all. I've met her father, her uncle, I've met the lot.
Who was your favourite?
Camilla, because she came down to your level. And also another one I've met is Theresa May, and she's the same. She's very, very friendly.
That was when we went to Normandy on the trip, the 75th anniversary trip. We met a lot of royalty then.
So, have you been to France?
Been to France?
Yeah, since.
Yes, I've been back to France.
How do you think France has changed?
Actually, we didn't see enough of it. What I would have liked to have seen, all the other nations have a memorial in France. When I went, that's a few years back, they hadn't got a memorial to any of the British who died, and we lost the most. And I think it's a disgrace. They have got a memorial now, but the Tuca chap, on his own, last year, the British Legion, it wasn't even there. Can't understand it.
No, they flew out one man to the memorial and he'd have loved to have gone. That's the one thing he really wants to do, is see that memorial. Because it's now complete, it wasn't when we went.
I would find out a lot by looking at the names. Those people I don't know what happened to. If I could read the names down the memorial, I'd know whether they lived or died.
So, as a child, when you were a kid, what was the world like?
Oh, it's a different world to what you all live in now. I can remember a time I was going to school and a person down the road shouted to me, "Harry, if you run to the corner shop for me, I'll give you the lunch, the crust off the new loaf. Now, we never got the crust off the new loaf. You kept the loaf for a day to go stale, so you wouldn't eat as much.
So, did you get a crust?
Oh yes, I went and got me crust.
What was Southport like back then?
Oh, we had water here then, and there was water at the end of the pier all the time. There was a channel ran off it was called the Bull Run. And what happened was, I had a boat on that, and of course it silted up, and we all had to move away.
So, what type of boat was it?
It was a 28-foot motorboat.
So, you liked a bit of speed in the day?
Oh yes, I used to do a lot of fishing.
So, what was Southport like? Did it have a lot of trams and a lot
Oh
of...
yes, and Lord Street on Southport used to be wooden blocks, and that was so the carriage wheels wouldn't make a noise because it was all cobbles, of course, normally, but Lord Street was paved with wooden blocks to deaden the sound of the ladies and gentlemen from industrial Lancashire that used to come here for the holidays.
Did it used to flood a lot?
No. There's certain parts of Southport are very low lying, and where I was born was one, and they used to flood, and certain parts still are damp, but there's no flooding like there used to be.
What about the underground shops? Do you remember them?
Oh, I remember the certain ones. There's one they always call it Jimmy Down Steps.
Why did they call it that?
If you went down steps, and his name was Jimmy.
What did it sell?
More or less bric-a-brac, anything. No food.
So, what other shops do you remember?
Oh, we had some glorious shops. Lord Street, of course, was made of very good shops. And another thing I just remembered, today there's no respect because ladies and gents are supposed to be equal. But I used to get a good rap round the back of my neck if I didn't take my cap off. If a friend of my mother's passed and I didn't take it off to her and acknowledge her. That's a day and age gone.
So, you think we've gone too PC?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Like, I still have respect for the female sex, which it's gone now, they're equal. Most likely they always were.
So, what do you think about the advent of telephones and stuff like that? Because when you were born, there wasn't anything like that, was there?
Oh no, there was no such thing as a telephone, but I think it kept you closer together because you had to go around and visit. Whereas today, it's over the phone. And you see people who go to a restaurant and all they're doing is one sat in one chair and one another playing with the phones.
So, you haven't been tempted?
Oh, I still have before, but I don't get it out very much.
So, out of all the things, all the technology and everything, what do you think has been the most groundbreaking and most influential for yourself?
Television. Without a doubt.
What about going to space?
Yes, but we don't see that the same. And actually, they're still going. They've not discovered space yet. They're still going and going. This mission's going now. It'll be years before they ever reach the planets. I hope to see the outcome of it, but it is going to change the world. And if we're looking for other life, I dare say the other life is looking for us. So one day I do think that we will meet some type of alien creature from another planet. Sure, we're not the only one.
So, the last question. In your 102 years, what's been the funniest moment of your life?
The funniest moment? Well, going down in the past, there was no funny moments. You didn't have funny moments. You just enjoyed yourself with what you had.
So did you do anything fun that you look back in fond memories of
No,
that you can't do now?
no. I used to love fishing and I used to love sailing. But of course, in Southport now with no water, I've missed all that.
Now, you had a pot sail, didn't you?
About twice a year in Southport, various places, usually on the front of a shop, they used to have pot sales, and everybody went and replenished all the broken pots, such as plates, cups and saucers. And I can remember to this day, and there was no electricity in those days, and it was used to have a flare usually lit. It didn't give it much light, but at least it just showed that there was somebody there with pots underneath.
And when was that? Was that
In my childhood, that's 98 years ago.
now? You also had an interesting job as well, didn't you, on the beach?
Not so much of a job, just to help a chap out who'd had his leg blown off in the First World War. He used to do sand modelling, and I used to, as I went down to my boat, I used to carry him water back to keep the sand damp, so that it didn't deteriorate in the wind.
And you used to call him something as well, didn't you?
Well, actually, in those days, being a bad lad as I was, we used to call him Peg Leg Pete, because he'd had his leg blown off and had a wooden leg.
And it was in the First World War, wasn't it?
He'd got it blown off in the First World War, yeah.
And you were saying something else to me just before.
One day, a friend and I used to set shorelines to catch fish. And we were going down one morning, and as we rode along, we saw a light in the sky. And as we rode, it seemed to be falling. But when we stopped riding, it stayed where it was. Mystery. Anyway, as we got nearer, we found out it was the light on the mast of a ship that come aground in the night. And we were walking round this ship, and a voice shouted, "Can we walk down that round down there?" We said, "Well, it's a bit dangerous, you don't know what you're doing," because it was very tidal in those days. And he asked us where he was, so we told him where he was, and then we told him he might get off because there's a foot higher on the tide, and he was an hour later, so he would most likely get off. And when we came back, he'd got off. Well, when we came back at night to go for the lines, he'd got off. Where he was going, I don't know. Most likely to Liverpool.
Now, you were saying that something happened afterwards, though.
Oh, a few days after, as we was riding along, a few friends going down to our fishing lines again. One of the chaps' front wheels fell in the keel trough, so they believed us then.
Okay.
Yes, well, during the war years, we ended alongside the Esk-Schult Canal, and to get across the canal, they brought pontoons, inflatable, dropped them by air, but quite a few of them blew over to the far side, and they asked for volunteers to go across swim across and bring these boats back. And the officer turned to me, he said, "You're a good swimmer, Harry." "No, you're a good swimmer, Howorth." And he said, "We can't ask the others to go if headquarters don't go." So I was like one of the fools that swam across the Eschyll Canal to bring one of the pontoons back. And doing so, they were very, very heavy. And in the end, after about a month after, I was flown back to Southport because I'd done me back.
So that's how you got out the army?
No, I ended up in military hospital and then I went back to my regiment in Germany.
Now, I believe you've not just been in the army, but you even touched on the Royal Air Force, didn't you?
Well, yes. What happened was my days in Europe ended in Minden in Germany. So I was flown out from Minden in Germany in the Bombays of the Lancaster to Cairo West for acclimatisation on my way to the Far East. And it was very, very dark inside, and a chute came down for us to slide down, and I slid down the chute, staggered all over because of the bright light. And then when I turned around and watched the others going down, they were all doing it.
So what was the bright light?
So from going from Germany into the desert at Cairo, just outside Cairo, of course, in this sunlight, and we've been in the dark in the Bombays of the Lancaster, so when you went down the chute, you couldn't see.
Were you worried they might accidentally press the button and drop you? Were you worried they might accidentally press the button?
Oh no, I don't think any get in that. Man, yeah, I wouldn't have minded dropping something with me.
Did you like aircraft?
Oh, it doesn't bother me. I've flown all over since, of course. The flights are easy now. But you don't like it waiting at the aircraft.
When you were a kid, did you think you'd be flying?
No. And the funny thing is, from that day to this day, if you ask your mother, could you go to play, she'd look up at the sky and say, the aeroplanes are up, yes, you can go play. And I've suddenly realised, because if they were flying in those days, it was going to be a good day. Whereas today, they fly all the time.
So when you actually flew, what was the very first time you flew?
Well, I'd flown before the war.
Anywhere fun?
I think I flew from Southport to what was then Yugoslavia.
Wow, that's quite a distance. I didn't even know they went to Yugoslavia from Southport.
No, we went from Manchester to so it was a wonderful place in those days, Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
But as with a lot of other things, the American had to arm one side, and of course, consequently, whereas under Tito, it was a wonderful lot of nations. But since then, of course, it's all split up.
Thank you, and it was a pleasure chatting to you, and I hope you have a fantastic birthday.
I'll be here next year,
We'll hold you to that.
so I'll see you all again.
Hold you to it for the 200th birthday. Thanks.